What is going on, guys? This is ATC, and today I'm bringing you part 2 to my jet tutorial video. And if you haven't seen the previous video, there will be a link in the description, so you can go back to it and watch that if you haven't seen it yet. But if you're just coming to this video because you're a bit more of an experienced pilot than the previous video needed, then so be it. I hope you enjoy the video. Now we're going to start off with some basic air-to-air combat and some basic dogfighting tips and tricks, and I'm going to tell you the current loadout that I like to use. And for the first one I like to have the air radar, and the air radar is a huge help, and if you haven't unlocked it, don't worry, it's just a little bit more of a heads up when you have got it because it reveals the enemy aircrafts on the map and it's just an overall easy experience. Then for the second one you want to either use flares or ECM jammer, and I'll get into the specifics of that a little bit later on. And then for the last one you want to be using the heat seekers. Now as you can see in the video, I'm using certain techniques and certain turns to be able to get behind the enemy jets and stay behind them, and this is nothing that I can really give advice on apart from watching the video and mimicking my actions, and it's all just down to practice. None of this you'll be able to get it first try unless you're really lucky, but it does take a little bit of practice, so if you don't get it first try then don't give up, because like I say, it's all about the practice. So you want to be using the left trigger to stay slow like I talked about in the previous video, and then you want to be getting some tight turns in there. Either way, you can either go loop the loop or you can go in circles like a tornado sort of effect, and then this will help you confuse the enemy aircrafts, and getting behind them will be a whole lot easier using this. And like I said, with the ECM jammer, I said I was going to get into the specifics of the flares and the ECM jammer. The flares are really good for consistent ways to decoy missiles and rockets, but the ECM jammer helps a great deal when you're actually dogfighting, for the simple reason it takes you off the air radar, and I think it takes you off for around about 5 or 10 seconds, so this is a great tactic to use. If you get stuck in a constant spiral with somebody, you can always activate your ECM jammer, fly low to the ground and just get away, and then you can always come back round and take the enemy by surprise, or you can simply just use it to get off the map, and then you can use this as an easier way to go the other way and turn back on the enemy jet. If you're close to the ground, then I don't recommend doing this, because once you've used your ECM jammer, as soon as the effects of it has actually ran out, then the infantry can always just lock onto you and shoot you down. So I only really recommend using this when you're far away from infantry or you're high enough to be able to stay off the lock-on signals. So now that I've got that out the way, hopefully you've had a little bit of practice of doing this. So now I'd like to get on a couple of little tricks that I'd like to use whilst I'm using the heat-seeking missiles. Usually the enemies will be using flares, a lot of the time they will be using the ECM jammer, but if they are using the flares, what I like to do is I like to lock on with the heat seekers equipped, and then I'll shoot one rocket. As soon as they've deployed the flares, I'll keep the lock on because this usually happens, and then you want to shoot the second rocket straight after, because usually people have a habit of shooting both the rockets, then once they've deployed the flares, both the rockets are going to get diverted, and then you're going to have to wait for your rockets to come back, and usually when this is over, they've either turned away, jumped out the jet, or other pesky business. Now if the previous tactic does actually work out for you, and you manage to disable the enemy aircraft, or you manage to do a significant amount of damage, you want to switch back to your main machine gun and then just follow up some shots to take it out. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, and that is a main machine gun. A lot of people struggle using this because it is a little bit confusing at first the way it actually works, but it works as any other gun in the game. You just have to follow up the shots. I usually like to give it about another jet's berth if they're at a medium range, which basically means imagine another jet directly in front of their jet, and you want to aim about midway where that imaginary jet would be, and then all of the shots should hit. But once again, this is another thing where you need to practice with it and you need to get the right timing, so remember to lead the shots ahead and then it should work out all dandy. Now I'm going to get into the part that really struggled me at one point, and that was taking out enemy helicopters, and it only really struggled me is because helicopters are that versatile, they can basically just stop on the spot and switch directions. So what I like to do is I like to come in from the aerial attack, so I usually fly out the vicinity of the map, go up in the air, turn around, and then you want to come back from a diagonal downwards position. Once again, you want to use the left trigger to slow down. I don't really like to use the heat seekers for this because once you've locked on and once you've fired the shots, 9 times out of 10 they're going to release the flares or they're going to put the ECM jammer out, and then once all this is over you're going to be already past it, which means you're going to have to come back around and then they're just going to have the flares ready to deploy once again. So usually I use the main machine gun for this. So you want to be using the left trigger to stay slow, and you just basically just want to shoot it down, and this may take a couple of tries. If you get it right in one run, you can either disable it, or if you're really lucky then you're going to be able to actually take the full jet down. And I do this in a couple of the clips on this video. So like everything else I said in this video, it's all about practice and it's all about finding what you're comfortable with. But personally I like to go in for the aerial attacks because helicopters are not very good at looking up and shooting because it makes them drop backwards and it will make them crash. So if you're not going to shoot them down, you're either going to disable the vehicle or they're just going to crash themselves trying to lock onto you whilst facing up at you. So aerial attack are the best chance you've got, and because of the size of the helicopters, they're not very hard to hit. But that's when I'm talking about the Apaches and the other attack helicopters. And when you're going against a transport helicopter, which is the Huey, I believe, I usually just tend to stay away from these because they usually have somebody sat in the back with a repair tool, so it's pretty much pointless attacking these anyways. So just stay away from them, but take them as a caution, and if you get the chance, then shoot at them by any means, because you might get a lucky shot and take out the driver, and I have done that a couple of times, or you might take out one of the side passengers. So once again, that's all we've got time for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope you've learned something. And I'd just like to say thank you for all the positive feedback that I received on the previous video. It really does mean a lot. Believe me, it was a huge confidence boost for me to post a video on such a big channel and get such great feedback. So I'll see you all next time when we'll be covering some air-to-ground combat, and it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.